Hey, it's Kyle, and I am very, very excited for the review I'm going to do today. For long-time viewers of the channel, y'all will be very much aware that I am a huge fan of Star Wars books. Really into, I've read probably around 70 to 80. Huge fan of the series. I'll link in the description box below the two previous videos I've done on Star Wars books on this channel. The key thing before I begin this review that I want to mention again that I've mentioned in those past reviews is the great thing about Star Wars books is that George Lucas and his company kind of maintains control over the books, so they get final approval on all the storylines. Because of that, all the books exist in the same expanded Star Wars universe, so the story matches up. So you don't have one author do, like a 3 or 5 book series, finish their storyline, and the next author start up and they just ignore what happened in the previous 5 books. So if a character dies in one book, the rest of the books that come after that, that character's dead. Or if a new villain arises, that villain has to be dealt with at some point. Or some book series like that, or movies. Think of the Batman movies. You kind of think of the Batman movies that came out in the 90s and stuff, and then the more recent one with Christopher Nolan, where they basically restarted the series. They haven't done that in Star Wars. They never rebooted the book series and go, all right, everything that's happened, forget about that, we're starting over again. So because of that, you never feel like your investment in reading the books is going to get wasted, because every book you read is going to build upon the story. So because of that, it's really enjoyable, and that's one of the things I really love about the way they handle the Star Wars books. But what I want to talk about today is my favorite Star Wars book of all time, which is also the first book in a 3-book series of my favorite Star Wars book series of all time. The book is Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn, and this book really gets the credit for really kick-starting the popularity of Star Wars books. It came out during the period where the movies, it had been a while since the movie came out, and George Lucas and his company was trying to decide to do what next for the series, and they decided, maybe books would be a good way to kind of expand the Star Wars storyline. And this was the one that kind of kick-started it all and became a massive bestseller, and all the books that came since then all owe their existence really to this success of Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. To kind of give you an idea of how popular this book is, one, like I said, it did start a 3-book series, so the second book is Dark Force Rising. The third one is The Last Command, all written by Timothy Zahn. But the popularity of this 3-book series, which a lot of Star Wars fans call the Thrawn trilogy, because that's the name of the main villain in this 3-book series, Grand Admiral Thrawn. I'll kind of show you. They even did a graphic novel version of the book series, which I got, so you'll get basically the book, in pretty much comic book form. I'm not sure how much you can see. That's actually supposed to be Grand Admiral Thrawn there. So they did a graphic novel for the series. It was so popular. And also it was so popular, and this is the only book of Star Wars I'm aware they have done this before. I could be wrong. But this is actually the 20th anniversary of Heir to the Empire, so they released an anniversary edition. The cool thing about this one is, one, on the hardback, they actually put the original paperback cover on that, so I thought that's really cool. That was a nice little touch. You see how they match up. They have a little introduction by the author where he tells about the story of starting the Star Wars book series, basically. But where it's really cool is it's annotated. So it has notes from the author throughout the book explaining stuff. Some of the notes are just, where he came up with character names. Some of the ones I found really interesting is basically after he submitted the first draft, there were some things that George Lucas and his company said, that's not the way we want to take Star Wars, we really want to try to drive it this way, or you're thinking of going this way with this character, you need to do that. So I found that really interesting. So he mentioned, this is what my first draft was, but I'm glad I changed it because it ended up going this way. Somebody talks about other stories that he got inspiration from, so from stuff like Lord of the Rings and stuff. So it's really interesting. That's something in any book that I'd really enjoy. annotated copy from the author, it would be really interesting just to kind of get a little insight of what the author was thinking about when he wrote this book. So very, very interesting, this 20th anniversary copy of Heir to the Empire. If you've read Heir to the Empire, I'd really strongly suggest you get the annotated copy because I think you'll enjoy it so much. If you've never read Heir to the Empire, I would actually really suggest that you read the book first before you started reading the annotated notes, because the annotated notes, he's basically assuming you've read the story before, so he kind of gives away some plot points. So even if you get the anniversary copy, almost ignore the annotated notes as you're reading them, and then maybe you can go back and do the notes. I've read this book countless times. The reason I love this book so much is, like I said, the series is kind of known as the Thrawn trilogy because the main villain is Grand Admiral Thrawn, and basically, let me set up the basic plot. This is set after the actions of the Return of the Jedi, and the basic idea is that even though the rebellion defeated the Empire, it wasn't like the next day the rebellion was in control of the entire galaxy and the Empire ceased to exist. It basically, continued the Civil War with just the rebellion having on the upper hand, and the rebellion basically ends up and forms a new government for the galaxy called the New Republic, but the Empire still exists. They're just slowly losing territory. So at this point, the New Republic controls most of the galaxy, but the Empire still exists and is still somewhat of a threat to the New Republic. The other challenge the New Republic is facing is, like any rebel movement that overthrows the government, then once they get control, they're faced with the problem of how do we establish a government? How do we convince all these various groups that, we can actually run the galaxy? So they're kind of faced with one, fighting the Empire to completely defeat them, at the same time trying to establish a stable government for the galaxy. So it's kind of, that's the situation. It's very fluid. It's at this point it's not clear, is the New Republic going to be able to survive, or will it just collapse and basically plunge the galaxy into chaos? With all this uncertainty going around, suddenly there becomes signs that the Empire is actually starting to regain strength, and they have some sort of brilliant new commander who's doing these daring raids on New Republic bases, and is always winning, and they can't figure out what the plan is. Well, over the course of the book, you get the chance to learn about this brilliant new commander, Grand Admiral Thrawn. He is absolutely brilliant. Kind of think of a Alexander the Great, a Napoleon type figure who just seems to always win, always to be one step ahead of his opponents. Just brilliant. It's a very interesting character. The great thing about him that kind of offers, kind of a mysterious element to him. One, he's not human. He's he's an alien that his body is human-like, but he has like blue skin, red eyes, so humanoid characteristics. But he actually is an alien, so that gives him a kind of unique personality. The other really interesting facet of his character is the way he gains insight into the people that he's fighting is by studying their culture's artwork. So basically the idea is that he can look at a sculpture from a planet's past, and he'll gain insight into that culture's characteristics, and he'll be able to develop a battle plan then to defeat that society. He's just brilliant that way. That's the way he figures out how he's going to plan his battles, and by studying the other group's artwork. He's just absolutely brilliant, which makes the book really interesting because, it's never fun to read a book where the bad guy is just a moron and you feel, the good guys are just going to win easy. This one, throughout the series, you're like, well, how in the world is the New Republic and, Luke Skywalker and Leia and Han and Chewie and all the other Star Wars people you're familiar with from the movies, how are they going to defeat this Grand Admiral Thrawn? My favorite character by far ever in the Star Wars books is Grand Admiral Thrawn. So if you really like sci-fi, even if you don't like Star Wars, I would suggest you read this series for the Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's a great sci-fi book character. If you love Star Wars, read this book. Even if you never read any other Star Wars books, I would encourage you to read this book and the other two books in the Thrawn trilogy. 3 books, it's not too much of an investment, but it's a great expansion of the Star Wars story. It's a great pickup of what happened after the Return of the Jedi. So I'd encourage you to check out Star Wars Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. Great book. Keep in mind, like I said, the 20th anniversary copy. Good book to go out there and get as well once you've kind of learned a little bit more about the storyline. If you have any questions about any Star Wars books, just let me know. Please just leave them in the comments. And like I said before, I'll link below the previous Star Wars books reviews I've done on this channel. So I hope you enjoyed this review for Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn, and may the Force be with you.